Hello. All right. Can you hear me at all? Can you say yes? Everything was black. Everything was black. Today, we're going to talk about the performance review. It's coming up. If you've just recently joined the company, or you are with the company and you want to be promoted, or you're not having a good relationship and potentially you're trying to resign or quit, this is for you today. Hang around. I'll be here 20 to 30 minutes depending on it. Can you give me a one if you can hear me, because something went cuckoo. Give me a one if you can hear me. Just one. I know it's something happened. I can't see anything. Say yes. Okay, I see yes, but like you can hear me and I'm fine. Number one. Put the number one sign for me, because it just glitched out on me. I'm just going to check. This is the problem when we go live, right? That's what happens. It's delayed. Okay, one. I see a lot of one. Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, I could see that. Okay, now I can see. Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Today, I'm going to again talk about performance review, and I know your ends are coming up. Perfect. Thank you, Angela. Thank you. All right. Performance reviews are coming up in a corporate world, and there might be no performance review on some part of company, and that's totally fine. I know I've worked with the similar companies where I happen to be an employee where I had to write the performance review for myself. So you would go to the managers, and I've been in the hiring world as a manager for more than 10 years. I wrote the performance review for my staff. Like at time, it's 20 people that I had to write it. And between 10 to 20 was a standard for us to write the performance review. And we used to have a quarterly, which is a good thing. And we also used to have annually as well, which saved us a lot of work, because most of the time we've already talked to our direct reports. And when the time comes in year end, the expectation was quite clear. Now, let me tell you one thing. Performance review should never be surprises. The conversations that it's happening with your manager should never, ever come as a surprises. You should already know your rating. Where do you stand? A lot of companies, what they do is there's the matrix. It's provided to you and measurable. Most of the time, the goals are measurable. And normally it ties up with your boss's goals, and boss's goals, and company's vision. So when it trickles down from the executive level to the senior leadership, to the management, to the employee on front end, the goal matches up perfectly, because everyone is going to go towards the same goals, where we're going to set each other up for success. Your boss's promotion depends on your goals as well. Your the day-to-day activities. Your boss's promotions and raise and bonuses depends on all the frontliners. It trickles down, right? Like, up as well. So now here today, we're going to talk about how do you manage up? How do you have that clear expectations? And how do you work on those things that you're supposed to be working on, and it does not come as a surprises? How do you track your performance review? How do you get those bonus and salary? And especially for new hires, I'm going to go break it down as a new hire, what you should be doing. As someone who is just recently promoted, what you should be watching for. Also, someone who's actually really, really not happy about, all the environment right now, and performance reviews coming up, and potentially there's a friction with the bosses and everything. How do you document that as well? So I'm going to talk about everything in high level. All right. And I have YouTube channel as well. If you guys are watching me right now, streaming on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube as well. And you know what? If you want to see more of the content from me, please go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I normally happen to go live bi-weekly, weekly. Also, I put a lot of contents out there. We have a free resources as well. You can go and download it, especially if you're a newcomer in Canada. And there are like a lot of links that you've never even probably seen it. Go ahead and do it. It's free. It's teaching.com, free resources. All right. Okay. So now let's see here. Before I jump it in, I want to make sure everything is good. All right. So first thing first, what goals do you have, and what's coming up in pipeline next, let's say quarterly. If, let's say, goals are really good when it's defined in a short term. So if you're not meeting this quarter, then you have some, the support tools, support system from your boss or your colleagues or team to work on it. So by the time the year end comes in, then you know that they're going to talk about it, your manager's going to talk about it. So you need to be crystal clear on how are you going to be measured. Some companies, like a lot of companies that I've worked with, I've worked in the top companies. All right. So they have a very good matrix, and I'm really proud of it that I've learned so much by managing the staff, because we used to have that communications all the time, coaching sessions. We're mandated that we had to do certain amount of coaching, and those coachings were tracked for our managers as well. So if you've done 60 hours, if the coaching was supposed to be, let's say, the norm was 100 hours you're expected, then you're going to be measured on it. So there's a pressure from the management team as well to see, hey, are you coaching it properly? So when the year end comes, the communications are not happening. It's like, well, I did not know that, right? So the last thing you want to be sitting in there, your boss is telling you like, well, this didn't work, this didn't work, this didn't work. And that's the reason you're not going to get the pay increase or bonus this year. That sucks, right? So that's why if your bosses are not telling you, if they're not coaching you the right way, they're not giving the resources and tool, it's onus is on you to go there and ask, hey, like put it on the calendar before the performance. Things are coming up right now. Year end is a huge deal for so many people, because all those things you've done this year, it's going to be looked at. The company's headcount's going to be coming up. And next in line is like, okay, well, you know what? Bonuses. Probably you're going to be making bonuses. Most of the time, leadership team, us, we used to make a bonus as well based on meeting the target, company's target. So that's huge. That's like thousands of dollars. So if you're not meeting it, that's costing you your livelihood, right? So you got to be very clear on it. And if you're not meeting it and consistently you are a low performer, it's been coached back and you're not working on it, the second thing is you're going to be let go, fired. And that's why we're going to talk about it. How should you document it as well? If you're on that stage right now that that you're going to be fired, because guess what? When you get fired, you don't get those bonuses you're supposed to, because you got to be employed within the company. And I've seen a lot of time in a corporate world where come in January or February, people are gone and companies are not going to pay you bonus that you've earned thousands of dollars. So you got to document it right. And we're going to talk about it at the end. First, let's go and start from when you're new at role. All right. So everything is fine. I'm sounding good. Good. All right. Hey, Muga, I can see you. Thanks for hopping in. All right. So let's talk about the new hire. So you just got the job, and let's talk about a lot of the newcomers in Canada. I'm going to like immigrant in Canada as well, because that's someone that I've closely worked with in the corporate world. Plus, I do work closely with the newcomers in Canada who are well qualified. For those of you watching me for the first time, I'd like to say that I'm a career consultant in Canada, and I helped thousands of people, newcomers in Canada, who are well qualified and dealing with that no Canadian experience barrier. Also, because I personally became a newcomer in Canada like 21 years ago, I can relate. And the other thing I do is because I was laid off after being in a hiring world for a decade, it was very hard for me to bounce back. And I put the strategy together and I got multiple offers. So, and I deal with that laid off professional as well. And I completely get you where you're coming from as well. Okay. So, and then people who wanted to go and switch and go where they're celebrated as well. Those are my type of clientele that I work with. So I can help them bounce back as well. So this is it. If you are dealing with that, let's talk. And there's an appointment calendar. You can go ahead and book it and see where the right fit. All right. All right. So let's go with the newcomers in Canada. The problem that I've seen in my days, and personally as a newcomer as well, I can relate it. So when I climbed up, when I got the corporate world, performance review were not done before. So I had no idea what it was, and I never asked. And I'm sitting down there and managers telling me, what I need to work on, matrix and everything, it's like slowly, it takes time. So my thing for you is, if you don't understand the goal, if you don't know the expectations, what's meet, what's exceeding it, right? let me tell you this, nobody's going to pay you higher for meeting the target. People are going to get paid high and high bonus for exceeding it. People are not going to pay you high just for doing a job. So your goal is to make sure you go above and beyond. Work hard when even nobody's watching you, and take this from the session today. If you're there asking for a raise by just doing your job, you know what? You have no case to get a raise unless it's inflation. Let the company decide on it. I know we want to get there because everything is getting expensive. But those people who just got hired, you got to go above and beyond for everybody because you have a limited time, especially when do you get hired matters as well. So before you get hired, though, you got to know when the performance review comes in. Is it quarterly? You got to ask those questions. Remember, on interview, you're supposed to ask the questions like, do you have any questions? And this is where your chance is to ask the right questions. Hey, when do you normally do the performance review? How often do you do it, right? So, let's say you come in January, you're going to get hired, and performance review is their year end. Let's say they do July to July performance review. Then chances are you're going to be reviewed within 6 months. But the other people they're reviewing you as overall is you only have 6 months of stat, and they have 1 year of stat, and you're going to work extra hard for it. You're going to be very strategic about it. Okay. And then what you want to do is, and that's when it comes in, the bonuses are going to be prorated if you're going to be paid, So that's a time when before even signing up the contract, if you're in the role, that's where you negotiate. Hey, you know what? I'm coming in half, within a year. Instead of prorating my bonus, if I do all right, what? Exceed it. Can we do something about it? Not prorate my bonus as well. There's so many salary negotiation techniques that I teach within my class as well, but this touches the performance review as well, especially if the bonuses are tied on performance review and you only make it once a year, you can be prorated. So you got to go extra hard for new hire when the bonus is going to be prorated, and you got to be very careful on just sitting there and going slowly. It only takes a couple of weeks to make any impressions, right? That's when I talk about 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days. I don't know if you've seen my YouTube channel, and that's where I posted about what you should be doing 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days as a new hire or someone who just got recently promoted. And this is why it's really important to forecast that goals and know what you're going to be measured on, because last thing you want to do is you just go there and you're completely working on different things, but your manager expectation is something else, and you're focused on different goal that it doesn't value the company's vision and goals, right? So you're going to be clear on it, and you're going to put it down, document it. And the other thing is, you got to start writing that, what are you most proud of? Accomplishment, because I've been guilty of that as well as a manager, that I'm writing the performance review for so many people. What's happening is I'm forgetting things. What am I proud of? So I used to have email folder for me anytime I was really proud of, anytime I really did something, saved the cost, did something, anytime even my team got a compliment, and we scored higher somewhere, we were the top team, whatever, I started putting it in my calendar. So when the performance review comes in, then I already know what did I do, because you have to meet the deadline, right? You have to meet the deadline, and you cannot wait for a manager to wait for you, because that looks so bad that you're not even meeting a deadline. And there you go. If there's a matrix, and the company would have a matrix of you not meeting a deadline, you would be probably scored lower. So you got to make sure that you communicate and you know the deadline, and you don't go about scrambling it when the time comes in. So here are things you can do. Is the second thing is put the Excel sheet together and put green, yellow, and whatever, green, yellow, and red, something greens, maybe you've done it this quarter and you're going to bring it up, right? That spreadsheet, put it together and then bring it up. Hey, you assigned me this, these were the goals, and I completed this, and this I'm working on it, and this I'll be working by then, right? Setting the expectations both sides is way easier than waiting for manager to ask you. Be proactive on it. And if you have that hurdles, and if you need that support, ask managers hey, I need help, and who do I reach out to get it done, right? So continuously, if you're not clear on it, your manager doesn't tell you, and you know that you're going to be measured and it's going to be a tough time, it's you to go and book that meeting in the calendar and say, talk to me. All right. And like, what do I need to do? And what do I need to work on? Tell me about did well and do differently. So it should happen regularly. That's exactly why. If you're a manager watching me right now, please don't do that to anybody. Like, wait until year end, slap in and say, well, you should have known. No, just like employees cannot read managers' mind, it goes both way, right? So you got to communicate to make sure that, before you rate them. I work in the organization where there's like meet and exceed, and then there's the other one was scoring system, 1 to 4, 1 to 5, right? So there's a rating system, and I'll tell you, like, it's really difficult. So we used to have a calibration sessions within every department. So we knew like high performer would be rated 4, but we need the clear evidence. And then like, the performer lower would be between 1 to 2. And why? We need the clear evidence of why, and those are all ongoing coaching inserted in there. So we had an evidence as a manager. I got very good at documenting, and that's thing I did very well in the world that I came from. Documentation. All right. So you got to be very good at documenting as an employee as well. Because no one's going to sell you, and this is a time for you to brag about yourself, just the way that you brag about an interview. Own that. Do not let your manager sit there and tell you what you're good at. You should already know. Do not let your manager come and sit there and tell you this is wrong, you need to work on this and everything. All right. You need to know that before you even manager tells you. You need to put it on writing, because you have to fill those informations, and you're going to do SWOT analysis on you. And I'm going to give you a second tip on it. So, all right. So accomplishment, what you're proud of, we've gone through that, and did well, do differently, and feedback. So this particularly, the last one, feedback from previous bosses, prorated bonus score, if you're recently promoted, because a lot of time what happens is you might have been expert on like what you did before. Now you're at the new role and you were rated probably 4 before. It has happened to me actually as well. So rated, anytime you move on to the new role, you're still learning. So you would be around your meeting, right? Exceeding would be like not right now, because you're still new hire on the different department. This is where people go wrong. People go through, I was always a high performer, 4, 4, 4. And all of a sudden my new boss is now rating me at 2. And they don't understand they cannot be expert within 3 months. So you need to work on it. This is where, again, going back the 60, 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days takes the process. There's a process to it, right? That applies to the people who are recently promoted as well. And you should not rate yourself as an expert at 4. If you're recently promoted, you need to understand the stakeholders, you need to fix the problem, and you need to own it. And then probably by the end of the year, you would do it. But you need to have that communication with the managers, like what do you need to work on it regularly as well. And I'll tell you how you do it. So what you do is next time is you want to make sure you focus on some instant goal that you can fix it, write it down. Also, the other one is bigger one, that one big block that it would help your manager and team as well. So bring it up as well, right? If you're new hire, or even when you're recently promoted, or whatever you're doing right now, you need to focus on that. It needs to be measurable as well, by when, and and then communicate it, because your manager doesn't know. I had 20 people who were reporting to me at my at one point. I'm busy with the meeting, I'm writing a performance review, I'm doing so many things. Manager's jobs is not only to sit there and do the admin work, right? It's coaching 80% of the time, making sure that my staffs are well trained and they're gonna be promoted, right? But then how do I know where do you want to be promoted? If you don't tell me where do you want to go? So that's a career development planning that I had to do it. But I had to know, and I had to figure that out for you, and I had to train you and give you extra tasks based on where you want to go, and be very clear on it. Before even year end comes in, you should have had that talk in quarterly or one-on-one, hey, I want to go there. Example would be, I want to go there in that department. I see that the project's happening right now. Can I take on some of the lead role on it? Can I present? So take that from your manager's plate. So then manager's testing you as well. You're ready, and they're prepping you as well. So I'm the type of manager who would just, promote it. Like, I don't want to work with anybody who's been in my team for more than 1 year, because I hugely wanted them to like leave me and go to other team. I want to keep on getting a new hire, coach them, mentor them, and pass it on. But a lot of managers, they want to hold on to it, right? So it depends on the personality of the manager too. But I love to like, train them, coach them, go, right? But it depends on the type of role that you're in as well. So understand where do you want to go, understand the career ladder, because every, companies would have a ladder of, if you go through that channel, you're going to go to leadership. If you go through that channel, you're going to go to different, right? And where do you fall in? Have that talk with the manager and get him those accomplishments ready. So you don't want to sit there and second yourself, like, let a manager define your career, right? Because you have to define that career. Hopefully that makes sense. And then as a managers, obviously, if the managers are watching me right now, if you're doing the performance review, you want to make sure you support them and ask them, hey, is there any hurdle? It's like, that I can help with. How can I get you from here to here? What do you need from me? Sometimes it's more training. Sometimes it's upgrading the courses. Sometimes letting them go to the different department and like, seeing the work, and if they like it, right? Having like setting up a meeting for them, because as a manager, we have that leverage of talking to the other senior leaders and putting that good word for you. But I'm not going to put the good word for you if like, you've not shown me those evidence that you can do the job, current role. If we are failing on the current role, I'm not going to put the good word for you and pass my work, work, maintenance work to someone else, right? Because that's my repetition online. It's a referral too. So, and then you got to be showing that if you're interested, and go above and beyond again. Okay. So then the other thing is, I know these things that you probably are thinking, you know what, can I coach my manager? Yes. You're going to have to learn how to manage up as well. All right. Your manager's managing you, but you got to manage your manager as well. If things are not working, you're going to strategically talk about it, but your manager should not be surprised on the year end as well, saying that, okay, well, you need to work on it. You had to have that talk quarterly. So by the time year end comes in, you're both aligned. And we've talked about this, and you know what, ever since then, I've noticed a difference in you, right? So you gotta do that as well. So if something's bothering you, you got to start documenting as well, because it might come up in performance appraisal. And some managers are like, they're out there, they're bad bosses, they will retaliate. You got to document it, protect yourself, document. Anything that happens, you'll disagree with the document. We're going to talk about that later. So one thing I really love doing it is SWOT analysis. So what happens is, first of all, okay, we know our strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threat, right? So you need to know who you are before you even start talking to the other people, reaching out, hey, who am I, right? You are the best person to figure out yourself. So if you're having a hard time, here's what I do. Like, I used to do that as a manager as well within the team. I also used to tell my direct reports as well, like, hey, send out the survey. I also do that with my client as well. So send out the survey to the people, especially there's a 360 feedback tool that, we had to do it as a leadership team. So we're responsible for making sure that I send out those 360 feedback to my managers, and the person I don't get along with it as well. I'm not fond of it as well, right? Because we tend to love the feedback from the other people who are really happy about what we do, but we disregard the people who don't like us, where we're not aligned. So you got to pick those people as well, because sometimes it comes from that area as well. Maybe there's really a red flag that you need to work on it. We would not know. And survey would be extremely confidential because we would not be seeing a name. So the comments that I got was like, wow, I did not think I was doing it, and I had to start working on it, right? So then when the performance review comes, you already are aware of it, self-aware, you're working on it, right? Remember, sending the survey versus means nothing if you're not willing to work for it, right? You got to really be serious and own that personal development and work through it. So then 360 feedback is amazing. It serves a result and everything. And your manager could see it as well. And you can go together. Okay, well, I think people are saying these things about me, and you know what, I need to work on it. And people are seeing this as a strength. You know what? Okay, well, we're aligned, right? So you should not be really off. You should already know what people are thinking about you, because that's your branding. What people are thinking about you does matter, right? But don't let it don't let it sit as a personal thing, but start to work on it if you can work on it. And then start, stop, and continue is really when you're sending out the survey, there are so many questions you can put in, but make it easy for them. What I used to do is like, can you provide the evidence when I've displayed this, right? Like when they talked about the weakness, right? Can you provide me the evidence where I've done it? Like you've seen it. And some people might do it, some people might not do it, but more evidence, the better, because I totally believe in giving the feedback with the evidence. So that way it's not personal, taking the emotions out and people get it. Oh, I've done that. I remember that, right? So that way it's like, okay, I'm not going to do it again, or I'm going to do things differently. So start, stop, and continue is a great way to ask for feedback because people are on spot. Like, I've always used that in corporate worlds, and I still do that right now with my clients. And I already said a raise is not going to be given to like people who are just doing the work. It'd be given to people who are going above and beyond. Get that right. And let's say that whatever reason, the performance review did not go well. All right. God forbid it did not go well. And you're like, shattered and you feel like, oh my God, this is such a stupid rating. I don't agree with it. Because what happens here, a lot of companies, all right, this is the insider tip for you. If I'm writing something for you, chances are my boss already knows you because chances are my boss is going to see what I wrote for you. It goes above, they can see it. So in a larger company, what happens is I write it, it has to be approved by my manager. My manager approves it, like, HR approves it. Everybody knows it. If you're trying to fight it, chances are I'm already aligned. Like, my bosses and me are already aligned. Why am I giving you that score? Like 1 if I need to. And I'm doing it. I'm documenting the hell out of it. There's no going back. And I might be like exiting you out. And there's a reason I'm doing that as well. All right. Or if you're a new hire, then I'm willing to work with you with a lot of support. There's like, two different side of stories here, right? Depends on where you are. So it's really important for performance review tracking. A lot of companies, when you get fired, and lawyers going to ask, show me the performance review. Was it coached on that? Did you guys talk about it? If the employer and manager goes like, we never talked about it, that's not like nothing were written, it was just spoken, done. The case is like, you never talked about it and you're going to fire somebody. That's why documentation is the key as an employee and both manager. This applies to both. If something is bothering, if it's not been addressed, put it in writing, document it. If you don't do it, if you don't write it, nothing happened. If you don't write it, nothing happened. That does not count as evidence, all right? If you're emailing yourself for discussions and there's no performance review, let's say, that counts as an evidence as well if you get fired and you're not supposed to be fired. That's the key for you. So now let's go back. If you disagree, put it on writing. I disagree with the scoring. Here's why. We've never discussed it, stuff like that. Put it in there, right? It depends on the type of relationship, honestly, you have with the boss. And if you feel like there's a friction and there's no going back and he's a jerk, you know what? So be it. You're going to disagree, right? And then you can go skip level. It might hurt you because your boss's boss already probably know that, they're going to defend. Or you're going to go to HR as well and fight that as well. But it is what it is. All right. So you got to document it at the end of the day if you're trying to quit, if you know that you're going to get fired as well. That's a really crucial point. So again, and later on, it doesn't matter if you have formal performance review or not, nothing like that. You got to make sure that you disagree and copy boss's boss or HR as well. So in the court, if there's evidence warranted, then you know what, done. By you disagreeing it, doesn't matter the score is going to be like, you cannot get fired, but at least there's some paper trail on it. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. Any questions for me? Let me know. Great advice. Thank you very much. Muga, thank you. All right. Jeff, thank you. Namaste. Thank you. Let me see if I see any questions, anything like that, that I missed it. So a lot of companies, they have measurable goals like KPIs. You need to understand, like, what are you being measured on? That's really important to work on it. And we used to have a system where we're supposed to provide the real-time feedback as well, and my manager could see it as well if they want to, right? So this is not going to be a manager's not going to be surprised with the rating. And we used to have a calibration sessions with a group of leader where like, okay, why that person is 4? Like, I don't think that person is 4, because they've seen the attitude, behavior, and everything. It's like, okay, because you know what? That's why your reputation matters as well. So chances are in the bigger company, when the scores are calibrated to be fair, that everyone, like, not everyone ends up at 4, right? The other thing I wanted to tell you is the thing that happens in corporate world as an employee and manager. So if there's a rating system, I really want you to stop putting your rating at 4. If you know that you're not 4, if you are at 4, give me the reason to negotiate with my boss that you're at 4, because if there's no evidence, I'm not going to write the evidence for you, accomplishment for you, right? You got to build a case. If you really think you're at rating 4 and you're going to get that highest increase in bonus, you want to make sure that you provide me each and every evidence. Come prepare, because I'm thinking 3. I'm thinking you're 2. To bump you up to 4, you need to give me the reason. Why am I bumping it up? Because I need to give the reason to HR and my boss as well, right? So you gotta own that accomplishment again, going back with the evidence, all right? And the other thing with the performance review, review that I had, and I really loved the tool, was I'm going to tell my people, direct reports, 20 of them, to write it, give them a deadline, done. And I would start writing it after reading it. And then I'm rating it based on the bucket that we were given, right? There's a meet. If you meet from if you increase customer satisfactions, if you're on that quality score by 80% every time, then you get exceed, let's say, right? There's a different bucket. Would rate them. And then I put it in there. And then before the performance review happens, I really want you, manager, to practice this as well. Don't sit there and start reading it, because people are not going to be focused on it. So open it, and there's a tool available in corporate roles. And plus, if you don't have it as well, whatever you wrote it, send it in advance, the meeting, attached to the calendar, so they can see it and they can focus it. They can come back, because they have now, because it's not fair, right? You've seen what they've written, but you're going to hide it and break that, right? Send it in advance, so they have an option to okay, how do I defend this rating? What, I don't agree with this, right? Be very cautious and mindful as well, because you don't want to, how you coach matters as well, right? And I know I'm not perfect. I was not a perfect one a couple of times, and I wish that I've done things differently, right? But we all learn. So more you do it, more you learn it. For new leaders, what happens is new managers who's never done the performance review perhaps sit in one of the managers' performance review, providing the fact they're okay with it, both employee and that, and see all right, this is how it's done. And we each all have our own style. But what happens there is, when you're provided the process, this is the matrix, this is how the rating is done. When you provide those rating based on the evidence and measurable goals, the conversation is going to be very easy for you as an employee, why you're defending score for and why they deserve more, versus being vague. Don't be personal, you did this, you did that. Don't talk about the other people, because that's you and your manager. This is where you talk about yourself. You own that time, not the other people. Doesn't matter. That needs to be tackled out in 101 previously, before the performance review. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. Well, let me know if you have any questions. I'm looking at it. All right. So if you want to quit for whatever work, injustice, and there's a favoritism kicking in, there's a nepotism, it happens in the corporate world. There's a bullying and harassing, put it in the performance management, the guide, a review, so it's documented. And if you had to quit because of whatever reason, then and you didn't want to quit, but you had to because they exit you out, right? You have a case now. Go hire the lawyer and deal with it and sue them, right? If you don't speak up for the bad bosses, there are bad bosses out there. Who's going to speak up? Because they're always going to be there. You got to document it, right? No one's going to know if you don't document it. It's going to go to HR. So that's a very good way to actually put the strategy together nicely, that you disagree and why, and why you're dealing with the mental health and stuff. You got to document it as well. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. Goku, thank you very much. I think I'm done, like, let's see here. I'm going to show you something. There is a free resources I was talking about. If you're a newcomer to Canada and you're going to be landing soon, there are a bunch of website and immigration link and, like, you know what, whole handbook. You can download it for yourself. And also people who wanted to look for a job in specific area, remote work, and stuff like that. You can download that as well in there. And you'd be surprised. There are like so many links that I didn't even know we put it together. And there's a blog as well that I write it. How do you how do you network in the holiday season as well? It's recently up. Go ahead. There's a bunch of example as well. You can go ahead and review it. I would love for you to give me a feedback, reach out on a DM, I've open message, follow me for content. And also if you're new to Canada, laid off and dealing with the ageism, you know what, I would be happy to chat with you and see if we're the right fit, how I can help you bounce back. You know what, I do what I do because I've been in your shoes, newcomer to Canada, laid off, and you know what, I was not happy with the work and I resigned as well. And this is how the Teaching Do was born. So I walked miles in your shoes and I know I can relate. I can empathize as well. I know holiday season's coming up, performance reviews coming up. If you put the research together and put the evidence on a performance review and go with the mindset without assuming it, the conversation is going to be a lot better than like panicking out, because it's going on both sides. Your manager's thinking, oh my God, I don't want to talk to that person, because you don't want to be that person who's going to be always arguing and putting a conflict together. Try to work with the managers, right? We're all human at the end of the day, and disagree politely. And you know what? If it doesn't work, then maybe you need to go where you're celebrated. All right. Thank you so much for watching me, and reach out to me if you have any questions about this. Take care. Bye-bye.